never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion. Got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist. Mission control, do you read me? Send me my coordinates lately. Mission control, am I drifting? Tie me to someone who will love me, yeah. Wait, I think I'll last a bit longer. Fine.
Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. It is a Saturday, so it's 2 weeks until week 0 in the world of college football. So today here on the channel, I'm going to be previewing another team's 2022 college football schedule. And as always, any thoughts on it, please feel free to let me know. This is a team that, if you look at their schedule, I kind of feel bad for them, because if I was a BYU fan, I would feel like somebody hated me, because I don't care what team it is, where you play, nobody could go undefeated with the schedule BYU has. Now, if BYU does by some chance, somehow, some way, go undefeated, they have to be in the playoffs. But I just don't think it's possible. And a lot of people don't know this, but to me it should be plain as day that the reason why there are no rules as far as how you exactly get into the college football playoffs, so you can't really break rules because they're not there, which is one of the things that makes the college football playoff and the whole committee thing look like idiots and make you a laughing stock, because you change your rules on a daily, weekly, yearly basis depending on who wins and who loses. And sometimes winning your conference matters, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes playing for your conference championship matters, sometimes it doesn't. So they really don't have any rules, and the reason why that is because the playoff committee was formed for one reason, and that is to show favoritism towards the Power 5 conferences. And that should be obvious now, because look at all the money that these conferences are now bringing in. If you could all of a sudden, somehow, some way, put Boise State in the playoffs on a yearly basis, or you could put BYU in the playoffs on a yearly basis, then what would be the reason for these networks to make these Power 5 conferences look better if all of a sudden you can go to a lower tier team in a lower tier conference and have just as much of a chance as go to the playoffs as the Power 5 teams do? So their job is simple: to make it look like the Power 5 is the place to be. And that's why Cincinnati barely got in last year, and there was still people that didn't want Cincinnati in, even though Cincinnati had more players drafted in the NFL draft than anybody else in college football, with the exception of Alabama and Georgia. There was still some people who somehow, some way, could not watch Cincinnati until they were good. It's because we let these certain networks or certain people try to brainwash us and tell us that you have to play in a certain conference or play a certain way or play a certain team to be good, when none of those things are factual, but we sometimes get brainwashed by those things. If there had been any chance whatsoever that Cincinnati could get left out last year, they would have got left out. But you couldn't look as impressive as they did and get left out. But you can darn well bet, had they lost one game, even though they were still a great football team, they wouldn't have got in. So just like Cincinnati last year, BYU's pretty much going to have to run the table to get in. But with this schedule they've got, even if they go 11-1, they should still get in, but they won't. But they open up the season with South Florida, and then they play Baylor and Oregon back-to-back. And then they play Wyoming, and Wyoming's one of those teams that's always sneaky good. They're not great, but it's not like they're a 2-win football team. They're always a sneaky good football team. And then they come back 5 days later on the last Thursday in September and play Utah State. And then they play Notre Dame, and then Arkansas, and then Liberty, and then East Carolina, and then Boise State, before finally getting a bye week in week 11 before wrapping up the season with Utah Tech and Stanford. And Utah Tech is probably the only give-me game on the schedule. BYU does not play Utah this year. Most years, those teams play each other because they're both Mormon schools and they're both in the state of Utah, but they do not play each other this year. But you're talking about a team that plays Baylor and Oregon and Notre Dame and Arkansas and Boise State and Liberty and East Carolina, who, just like Wyoming, is a sneaky good team, and Stanford, all in 1 year. A lot of times people say that being independent makes it easier for you because you can schedule who you want to. But BYU has gone out and made a schedule that, in my opinion, is too tough. Nobody could run the table with this schedule, but if BYU does, they deserve to be in the playoffs. Any thoughts on this again, please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. What happens when you rearrange 2 of the letters in the word nuclear? It's unclear. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.